Here's a little secret. If you change shirts, you can pretend like you're recording your video on a different day. All right, let's get into the last of my wrap up for September. This time I have the books that I read for The Sims. I think I said it wrong in my last one. So if I'm wrong yet again, I will correct it on the screen. You'll have a little. So if you want to see when these books were chosen, I will put the link up in the corner. And let's get right to it, shall we? We've got 6 books to go over. Like I said, the 5 that I picked for my challenge. And then one more, which was my Buzzword selection for the month. So we are going to hit the ground running and start with The Appeal by John Grisham. I was so let down with this book. We're not starting on a good note this time. I remember reading Grisham back in the day when they came out, The Firm, Pelican Brief, all of those. A Time to Kill, loved them. And that's what I was expecting when I picked up this one. I was really excited for this. But if you're looking for courtroom drama, this book is not it. This one is about dirty politics, basically, and how you can buy a seat on the Supreme Court of a state. So while it does bring flaws within our election system and our judicial system to light, that is not what I went into this book expecting or wanting. So as a result, I didn't enjoy it as much as I potentially could have. But to be quite honest, if I had known it was all about dirty politics, basically, I probably wouldn't have bought it because that's not something that really appeals to me. I do like the courtroom drama, like The Firm, or A Time to Kill, those kind of things. The Appeal just didn't. It's not to say that somebody else wouldn't enjoy it. The pacing was okay. You get a lot of different perspectives in this one. You're following a lot of different characters simultaneously. And as a result, I never connected to anyone. There was a potential to maybe connect with the main 2 lawyers at the beginning. But like I said, there was just so much going. And it just... I think I had seen the review for this where someone said that it seemed like John Grisham wrote an outline for this and somebody else wrote the book. Like it was kind of rushed through. And it kind of, I can see why they had that opinion. It didn't feel as captivating as these other books. I remember The Firm just flipping through that book and being on the edge of my seat the whole time. So if you like dirty politics and corruption and all of that, then you might enjoy this. It's not so much about the, what was it? There was a environmental toxic waste issue that happens in a small town in Mississippi. So it's not really about that. It's more about the campaign. Okay, so this book is broken up into 3 parts. We've got the verdict, which I like how it started out. It started out at the end of the trial to where the company was found guilty of this toxic spill. They were being sued for wrongful death and damages and everything. So a verdict is handed down at the very beginning of the book. And it's I think $34 million verdict. So of course it's going to go through the appeals court. And so this part of it is about the verdict and knowing that the appeal is coming and we're going to and the lawyers are preparing for that. They expect it to be like a year out, and all of the different, everything's being set into play. And then we've got this whole section right here is nothing but dirty politics. This is about the campaign. And at the very end, you have the opinion on which is the vote or the opinion of the Supreme Court of Mississippi where the case lands. And honestly, it felt like this much was of the campaign, but it just wasn't for me. I think I gave this like 2.5 stars, something like that. It would have been on the little info card before I did it. So, I mean, if you want to check it out from the library, or if you've read this and had a completely different take on it, let me know. And has Grisham's style changed dramatically? I haven't read him in a long time. This came out in 2008, so it was quite a span from back when I was reading him. Anyway, let's move on to something that was much more enjoyable. Just the Comedy of Errors. This little book, when you take into consideration, this is a translation. One side we have the original text by Shakespeare, and the next okay, my daughter just called. She was at Chick-Fil-A. She ordered a chicken sandwich. She pulled away from the drive-thru, and they forgot to give her the chicken. In their defense, she has celiac, so she has to get gluten-free, and I guess they gave her the bun. They always do the chicken separate, and then the bun is wrapped separate, so everything is free of contamination, but I guess they forgot to put the little container in with the sandwich fixings in it, and she just drove away with the bread. So, all right, back to what we were talking about. So on this side of the page, we have the original text by Shakespeare. And on this side, we have a modern translation, which still loving this series. I think I've mentioned one of these books in every one of my review videos lately. And I will say I've had these, I homeschooled my kids when they were younger. So I picked these up whenever Barnes & Noble was moving to a new location. So I grabbed all of them that I could. And they've just sat there. I've always liked Shakespeare, because it's kind of ingrained that read Shakespeare, everybody. But now when I'm finally reading these, I see why his name is still so prevalent today. Anyway, in this little book, which half the pages are the original play and half is the translation, so much happens. Got a case of mistaken identity based on twins. So let me see if I can summarize this really quick. There's a merchant and his wife. She gives birth to 2 boys, identical twins, completely identical. And they're at an inn when this happens. The same night, downstairs, a peasant woman gives birth to 2 identical twin boys. And I mean identical. The merchant acquires the peasant's twin boys with the intention that they will be servants to his boys. So they are leaving this inn, our couple, with the 2 sets of twins. So we've got 4 babies. They go on a ship. There's a shipwreck. The mother and her son and the servant go this way to an island. The father with the second son and the second servant go to a different island. There's a lot of political strife in the region at the time. The island where the mother and the boys land is close to the people from where the father is. So they are separate for the majority of the boys' lives. Now, the only way they were able to be distinguished was by their name. Both the mom and the dad called both sets of twins by the exact same name. So do you see where this is going? Eventually, father and the boys end up where the other set is. They're all in the same town. The servants mistakenly are going to the wrong son, and all sorts of shenanigans ensue. How he managed to get so much action packed in such a little place. Keep in mind, half of this is the translation. It's just genius. So if you've never read A Comedy of Errors, check it out, especially if you like mistaken identities, twins, and all of the problems that can ensue from that. It's quite a lot happening in this play. I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it, and this was my first time to ever read this play. I hadn't seen any versions or heard anything about it. So, Comedy of Errors. Good job, Shakespeare. Okay, we're going to move back on to, we kind of seem high and low today. This is Rules of Gentility by Janet Mullany. It's another one I had read a long time ago. And I remember I really enjoyed this book the first time around. Apparently, my reading taste must have changed, because this time around, I didn't have that same vibe from it. From what I understand, the author is a fan of Jane Austen, rightfully so. And she modeled the main character in this one, who is Philomena Wellesley Craig, is our main protagonist. She is modeled after Lydia Bennet, and she's very naive. She's into bonnets and fashion, and then we have Lord Linsley, who is kind of, he's known as a rake, and he's got a mistress and an acknowledged bastard son that he, doesn't take any, he's proud of his son, which he should be. And this time, though, during the Regency era, that, of course, they didn't acknowledge their illicit offspring. So, and these two form a fake engagement. Now, it is a light, fluffy beach read. This would be perfect for beach read or this summer if you want just something light, fluffy. There's a lot of comedic mishaps in this one. And to me, this time around, it kind of started feeling like the author had these funny incidents that she wanted to happen, and there was just a little bit of story linking them to. It might have just been my frame of mind, because like I said, I remember the first time I really enjoyed it. The second time, not so much. So I would say, if you like the light fluffy, if Lydia Bennet is one of your favorite characters, you like fake engagements, then you might really enjoy this book. It just, this time it didn't do it for me. I think I gave it a 3. Like I said, it wasn't bad. It just, no. In fact, I think I will be unhauling this one. I don't think I'm going to read it again. I've got too many other books that I want the space on my shelf for something else that I will really love. I'm striving to only have the books left on my shelves that are 4 or 5 stars that I absolutely love, that I will reread over and over again, because I am a serial rereader. All right, let's move on. Cabinet of Wonders. I did enjoy this one. This is a middle grade book, and it's set in Prague, which I don't have many that are set there. It's steampunk-ish. We've got a 12-year-old girl. Her father is a celebrated clockmaker who is hired to make a clock for the prince, and it is imbibed with magic. So the prince is planning to control the weather. He's not a benevolent ruler. He's very selfish, and It's based on the Habsburg princes at the time. I guess there were 3 sons, and they were each given areas, and they had to prove, their worthiness to inherit the crown. And so this is very loosely based on one of those princes. John Dee, if you're familiar with Elizabethan England, he was one of her spies, potentially. Mathematician, very academic. He was an ambassador. If you've ever heard of John Dee, his character is actually in this book. And I really enjoyed this. We also have the Romany, the Roma. So our main girl goes to the palace because the prince has stolen her father's eyes to prevent him from making another clock like hers. She's got a mechanical spider as a best friend that kind of lives up in her hair. Like I said, steampunk. And she discovers that she may have some magical ability of her own. And she's trying to get back her father's eyes for him. And she befriends a Romany boy. And they go undercover in the palace to help her father. So it was a really good story. I really enjoyed it. The pacing was really good. The characters, there's a lot going on. There's a little bit of suspense. It wouldn't be anything overwhelming for middle graders. There are 2 more books in this series, and I'm really upset because I love this cover, and apparently they redid the covers. So I may just get the next 2 from the library and hold out to see if I can find the originals at like half-price books or thrifted or something. Because why do they do that? Why do they take a perfectly beautiful cover and ruin it? I don't know. Anyway, I recommend this one. And let's move on. We've got Incarceron. This was another one I really enjoyed. This is a dystopian. Claudia is the warden's daughter of this prison, Incarceron. So we've got 2 very different worlds. And we've got 2 alternating points of view on this. We're following Claudia in one. She's living in this world where they have to follow protocol. So everything has to look and be a certain way. They're like following Renaissance customs and aesthetics. So they're using carriages, lamps, dressing in the way that they would in the gowns and all of that. Everything has to be very proper, but they're doing it with the use of technology. So it's really, I like how they took the technology from the future and use it to make the world look old and charming, like an idealized past. So that was really interesting. I thought it was beautifully done. Incarceron, the prison, is so polar opposite from this beautiful, idyllic fairy tale world that Claudia lives in. Finn is in Incarceron. He recollects nothing from his life before that. He believes he was born outside, even though everybody says that's impossible. But his memory only goes back 3 years. He's 17, as is Claudia. So his world is completely different. And it's very dark, oppressive. Under caves, everything's mechanical. There's red eyes everywhere that's watching. The little cameras, the red eyes. And it's very cutthroat where he is. So he's trying to escape. He and Claudia end up communicating with each other, and she's trying to escape from an arranged marriage. So I really loved the world building in this. It was incredible. I liked the relationship between Finn and Claudia. It's not, an insta love or anything like that. There's a little hint that there might be a little romance to come, but at this point they're just they're friends helping each other out. And I would recommend this book. I highly enjoyed it. I believe it is only a duology. And I do have the second one right here, Safik. So I think it's just these two. So if you're looking for a dystopian, and this was, I believe, yes, 2007. So check out Incarceron. The world building is incredible. And I really like the characters and the pacing. So there wasn't a moment where I was like, oh God, get on with it. It was captivating. Okay, our last book. This was my Buzzword selection. This is The Plentiful Darkness by Heather Kassner. This was in the Owl Crate Junior August 2021 box. So this is a very recent release. I really enjoyed this, although I have no idea how I'm going to describe it. This kind of has a fairy tale vibe. It is middle grade. And as a kid, if I had read this, I would have been creeped out. It's very atmospheric. So this would be a good selection for October, actually. We've got some orphans that are, living a hard life, and they capture moonlight in these magic mirrors, and that's how they sell it to provide for themselves. And our main girl, Rooney, she has mice or rats as her only companions and confidants. There's this one little rat, and he's adorable. You find yourself rooting for the rat too, but he accompanies her on her adventures. And then there's another group of orphan children, because this town had a plague, I believe, like the year prior. So there's a lot of children left to defend for themselves, and they're just living in the streets trying to get by. And there's this group of the Rough House Boys, is what she calls them. There's like 4 of them, but she's not part of that group. So she's trying to survive on her own, and some things happen. They find themselves at the mercy of a dark witch who propels them into a dark world with it's all darkness, everything. There's no light anywhere. It's very creepy and atmospheric, and it's about their time in this alternate world. And there's other children down there because they've been being kidnapped all around the town, and they're trying to escape from this environment and figure out what's going on at the same time. Very atmospheric, really kind of creepy, especially for the first half when you figure out what's going on. It's very original and unique, and honestly, I don't quite know. There's nothing I can compare it to because I haven't seen anything like this. It's a very small, short book, and the world that she was able to create within these few pages is it's stunning. It's beautiful. So check out The Plentiful Darkness if you are looking for a book for Buzzword. But yeah, or a very good atmospheric one for October, actually. So y'all might like this one. Anyway, that was the last of my books for September. Yay. So now I can start working on my October ones. I've got 18 books I'm trying to read this month. And as I get them done, I will try and put out reviews throughout the month. So anyway, if y'all have read these, if you have differing opinions on any of these, let me know. I would love to discuss it with you. And in the meantime, enjoy your month, enjoy your reading, and have a very spooky October. I will catch y'all next time. Bye now. Well, I'm a goof. I thought I was done, but somehow I had overlooked Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. Actually, it was sitting on my desk because I just finished it last night. Loved it. Still loving this series. And I was prepared for the second book syndrome. The second books in trilogies always seem to kind of be a filler, or, they tend to be more along the lines of setting up for the third one, but the action in this one was just as great as Shadow and Bone. If you have not read this series, it lives up to the hype. It is so good. Her world building is incredible. And we have a new character in this one that I absolutely love. I am such a fan of this character. I just love him. And I don't want to give any spoilers, but so much happens. It is such a good book. If you haven't read Shadow and Bone, the Grishaverse, then definitely check it out. You won't regret it, especially if you like sci-fi and not sci-fi, fantasies and magic. It's magical. I love this world. And I'm forcing myself to get through at least the trilogy before watching the Netflix show. So why do they do that? I don't want a Netflix sticker on there. So anyway, that's a side thing. And as for why I'm standing up, let me show y'all what happened when I put things back where they belong. Let me see if I can do this smoothly. Oliver, I put his chair back and I didn't have the heart to move him. So anyway, now I'm done. Y'all have a great October, and I will be back with my October reads, so there'll be more book talk. I'll check y'all next time. Bye now.